So as we were talking prior to our recess, I'd just like Ms. Morrissey to discuss what the health matrix guidelines are in terms of the recommendations for more in-person, less in-person, or remote, and where Bridgeport falls into that category right now.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really happy to be able to talk about some of the metrics that we are looking at and discuss where Bridgeport falls today. So I lost connection before, so I didn't quite hear everything that Mr. Testani was saying, so I'm going to try to patch it together. So one of the things that we discuss when we talk about whether or not we can go back safely is what that positivity rate looks like. So the number of people that are presenting with new cases would be our numerator, and the denominator would be the number of people that we're testing. Right now, Connecticut as a whole, we're looking really good. We had a couple of conversations with DPH this week in regards to what our numbers look like here in Bridgeport as far as that positivity, and we're still really low. I know that there's been a lot of chatter in the media in regards to a couple of upticks in Bridgeport, and you know, it's hard to go through all the data with all of the changes, but really what it looks like is we have a consistent higher level of cases per week than some other communities, which is something that we anticipate because we are an urban core. So we have not seen any major changes over the last 4 weeks as far as the number of people. Our numbers still support within the guidelines from the state for reopening. And as we do reopen schools and we are going back, that's something that we will be taking a look at continuously on a daily and a weekly basis, and advising the Board of Education and Mr. Testani and his team as to where we stand and if there were any things that we're concerned with. The data that we have available to us, we can actually look down to a census tract, which means that we can look at individual neighborhoods. So if there's a neighborhood that seems to be trending at a different rate than other neighborhoods, we do have the flexibility that we can address that. So we have a lot of data available to us to support our decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. So one of the things that I'd like to talk a little bit about tonight is that we are absolutely, as everyone knows, worked extremely hard. Hundreds and thousands of hours have gone in, and we're excited to welcome our students, our staff, our family back this fall for the 2021 school year. I am more than aware that these are unprecedented times that we are trying to open school, and I keep stressing to everyone, we had a great meeting today over at Central High School, question and answer session for over 2 hours with the Bridgeport Education Association. Ms. Ana Batista, the new president of the BEA, and I have worked extremely closely over the last several weeks since she's assumed her role, and also Eric Marshall, the CEA rep, to try to develop a working relationship to make sure we can bring folks back in a safe manner. And I'd just like to acknowledge Ms. Batista tonight because, as many folks know, there's a small group of individuals gathered outside. And I know Ms. Batista just wanted to mention that this is not a BEA-sponsored event, and in no way are they supporting or promoting this event. Correct, Ms. Batista?
Yes, I'm Ana Batista, BEA president. So the people that were outside, they're expressing their freedom of speech, and they are not acting under BEA, but they are expressing they don't feel safe returning to school. So that's great.
Thank you. So we have put out an option for all parents for the state of Connecticut to choose whether they will send their child back to school in person or if they would select to keep their child at home and engage in remote learning. Right now, I respect the decision of every parent in this district for making the choice that they feel is right for them and their family. I want all parents to respect the decision of every parent. So whether you choose to send your child or not, There's been some coercion of some parents trying to impose their will on others, and I think that's unfair. People should respect the choice that they've made for their children. So that's my start on this. If we could put the slideshow up, please. Share the screen. Okay. Okay. So, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the harms attributed to closing schools on social, emotional, behavior health, economic well-being, academic achievement of children, in both the short and the long term, are well known and significant. It is well documented that lack of in-person educational options disproportionately, harms low-income and minority children, and especially students with special needs. These groups make up a significant percentage of students in the Bridgeport public schools. Students do not have access to many of the resources that other students in more affluent communities around Bridgeport have access to. Many lack their own device, and many do not have reliable internet connectivity, even though they do have a device. Now, we are going to provide devices. We have purchased, we have received donations. We are going to be much better off as we begin the school year than we did back in March when we had to pivot to remote learning with devices for all our students, capable devices. We're working in conjunction with the Housing Authority, with the state of Connecticut and Altice One to provide internet connectivity to all residents and all school-age children here in the Bridgeport Public Schools. But even with that, Bridgeport students rely on schools for more than just an educational opportunity. No other setting outside the child's home has more of an influence on a child's health and safety and their well-being than the school they attend. Schools provide critical services to help meet the needs of children and families. Bridgeport Public Schools provides all students with a supporting environment that promotes the development of social and emotional skills. We provide a safe environment for students to learn and grow academically and emotionally. Our staff plays a critical role in identifying and addressing neglect and abuse. Last year alone, referrals to the Department of Children and Families made by school staff of abuse and neglect in the home was over 150 referrals. So these are 150 cases that if we did not open our schools and open our schools in a safe manner would not be made, and harm and danger could be put upon these students. Our food and nutrition program, as everyone knows, fulfills the essential nutritional needs of thousands of children across the community. Even with grab-and-go lunches, we know we weren't able to reach all our students. Schools facilitate and support much-needed physical activity. Many of our children don't get to go out and play because of the neighborhoods they live in are often riddled with crime, and parents are afraid to let their children go out. So this provides an opportunity for them to get physical activity at school within the PE classes and also recess and after-school programs. School closures disrupt the delivery of essential in-person instruction and critical services to children and families, which has negative effects on children both in long and short term. Reopening schools creates an opportunity to invest in the education, well-being, and future of one of our greatest assets, our children. And I believe wholeheartedly that we can safely accomplish reopening our schools while taking every precaution to protect not only our students, our teachers, staff, and families. We introduced a hybrid model this week simply because we understand that the number of students that attend our high schools will create a densely populated area and put health and safety at risk. So that hybrid schedule looks as follows. Students will attend if your last name begins with the letter A through L in person, Monday and Tuesdays. Students whose last name begins with M through Z will be on remote learning. All students will be on remote learning on Wednesdays, so we can clean the building a little bit more deeply and sanitize prior to the next cohort coming in on Thursday and Friday. The students that were on remote learning, M through Z, will attend in person, and A through L will be on remote. Students with IEPs, our special education population, our ESL bilingual population will have the opportunity to attend all 4 days, so they can get the services that they require in order to thrive academically in the classroom. Remote learning. I passed out to all the board members the expectations that we have laid out. It's not as simple as people think that we give someone a device to have internet connectivity, we power up the computer, and all of a sudden we're going to provide high quality educational opportunities for our students. There is a partnership that needs to be forged between the home and the school setting in order to provide an adequate, and I don't mean high quality, an adequate online experience for students at home. These are some of the expectations, as you'll find in your packet, that we've put together in order to inform students, families, teachers, and staff of what to expect in a remote learning experience that will provide them with an adequate experience as they try to navigate through the school closure that we just had, and also now in the reopening if distance learning or remote learning is a choice that they've made. So number one, the district is to inform students and parents and teachers regarding any updates. We try to communicate on a regular basis through our website, through our social media outlets, and through phone, email, text blasts of any new updates. We need to communicate clear and consistent expectations for all our teachers, parents, students that are related to remote teaching and learning. We need to provide the necessary supports and resources to ensure high quality learning continues through the remote learning model. And communication from school will primarily occur like I mentioned, through the school messenger, through the Teams platform and our district website. And website will be updated on a regular basis. The role and responsibility of students. This is important. Students should be reading at least 30 minutes every day outside of the learning process. Students are expected to participate in video real-time lessons every day, all day. So students should prepare to wake up in the morning as if they were going to school, brush their teeth, wash their face, have a good breakfast, and go to a spot in the home that they feel that they can sit down and adequately work during the course of the school day. They are to review lessons, learning activities assigned by the teacher. They are to collaborate with the teacher and peers using the digital tools on Teams. All students should wear appropriate clothing for in-person schooling daily and participate in an environment supportive of learning. So no pajamas, nothing of that kind. Again, students should be prepared to go to work or go to school. Students should be continuously reflecting on the learning process, the daily assignments, and asking for support and help when needed. Students need to complete their assigned work, their learning activities, and their assessments to the best of their ability and by the due dates indicated. What should parents expect from teachers and support staff? Teachers and support staff will provide timely feedback on student work and requests. They're going to develop remote lessons and learning activities that are age and grade appropriate, not just worksheets that they can work to keep themselves busy at home. Teachers and support staff will support students in their ability to collaborate by using the digital tools on Teams. They will facilitate student learning by using both digital and paper and pencil learning opportunities. They will be accessible to communicate and interact with students and parents during the scheduled workday. There was some students that felt that there was no boundaries reaching out to teachers and staff at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. That is not appropriate. Teachers are encouraged to check in with students and parents regularly through email, Teams, and other authorized modes of communication to ensure student participation and engagement. When not engaged in live real-time learning activities with students, teachers will be regularly checking for communications from students, parents, and staff administration throughout the workday, except when they're on their lunch break and their prep period. If teachers are unable to contact students or their parents by the end of the week, they will notify the school administration and support staff so that the office can follow up with families to ensure that all students are active in completing the assignments, lessons, and learning activities. Now, when I say this is a three-way partnership, parents have roles and responsibilities as well. Parents need to review the remote learning plan posted on our website. They need to request their child's student number for future use and reference. When we did our survey, many parents have been calling the office asking for their child's student number. This can be found on PowerSchool, and parents have the parent portal where they can log on to PowerSchool and find that information. All parents need to update their email, phone communication, and emergency contacts in PowerSchool. They need to contact the school to make sure the most current information is on file. Extremely important. We're going to send out messages through Messenger. If we don't have the correct number because you've changed your number or you changed your email, you're not going to receive important correspondence, including report cards. Parents need to coordinate, as needed, a time for the administration of district assessments for their child. Set limits on technology use for games, social media, and other things. Students need to be protected from some of the things that are out there on social media. And they need to review the Bridgeport Public School Internet and Network Usage Policy. The Teams platform is a Bridgeport Public School network and internet provider, so please make sure we're up to date on that. Establish daily routines similar to a school day and provide appropriate space for student support and learning. Develop a rational schedule for a shared workspace if you have more than one child. And that's often the case, and we heard that a lot in the spring, that there was siblings in the house and they were all competing for the use of a computer. So we are going to make sure that there's more than one device in the home for students, for families that have more than one student in the Bridgeport Public Schools. Parents need to review assigned work, discuss expectations for remote learning with their child, and communicate with teachers. It's important they emphasize the importance of learning and education. Again, expect their child to make sure children are reading at least 30 minutes every day. Stress the importance that students are getting appropriate amount of sleep each night. I know a lot of students that I met with remotely in our student roundtables when we were closed and doing remote learning were saying they were up all hours of the night. Children need to be exercising at least an hour each day. Again, if we're not going to be in school getting that much needed physical activity, we encourage parents to encourage students to exercise, whether it's by themselves or maybe as a family activity. Health, wellness, and social emotional needs must be a priority for all children. We encourage parents to contact the district office if you need assistance of the director of social work. Again, practice daily proper daily hygiene, washing hands, and all the things that the CDC recommends for preventative measures. And we have included that their website as well. Very important. Attendance will be kept for all remote learning days through PowerSchool. All student attendance will be consistent with in-person attendance. So if you're expected to be in your period 1 algebra class at Central High School and you do not log on and participate, you will be marked absent. Learning activities should be of high quality and meaningful and applicable to content standards. Teachers will provide clear guidance and expectations. Assignments may be provided daily with the expectation that work will be complete by the date indicated by the teacher. We had some students handing in almost 100 assignments after the school year had ended. Hard copies of work can be dropped off at the school office Monday through Friday between 8 and 12. Please call ahead to notify the office you plan to go there. And grading will be consistent with the plan on student learning. Work assigned should be graded in a timely manner. Feedback provided for improvement when the grade is less than the current or expected achievement level, so that students have an opportunity to redo and improve their performance. So we understand that students working from home may have some other challenges. So if teachers can provide timely feedback and give students an opportunity to redo their work, to improve their grade and performance in a timely manner, we're supporting them and encouraging them. All students will be graded on a regular grading scale. We ended the year with a modified grading scale that was approved by the board, pass, fail, and pass with distinction. That no longer will be in effect. Any assignments not completed will be marked as missing. If missing assignments are not done in a timely manner, as they would be during the school year, they will be marked a 0. So again, the remote learning experience is more than just a device and internet connectivity. It is a system that is set up where teachers, students, and parents all support the learning process in order for it to be effective. So this is why we are stressing the in-person contact, especially for our most vulnerable students, for our youngest learners. We know the data. Teachers, students that do not have an effective learning year with a good teacher fall behind. If it's 2 years, many of those students drop out of school. So we've already lost 30% of a school year. We do not want students to lose any more. I understand all the health and safety concerns. As you can see with the hybrid model, we're not implementing that right now in our pre-K 8 schools because 45% of our parents said they're not going to send their child. They're opting for remote learning. So it's given us an opportunity to keep our full-time attendance at a low class size. If that changes for any reason, if parents become frustrated, as we know many did in the spring, and decide to send their child in for in-person learning, if we need to pivot to a hybrid, we are prepared to do that. But right now, the numbers don't indicate. Unfortunately, we have close to 6,000 families that have not chosen in-person or remote. If by August 20th we do not receive an option that is chosen, those students will automatically be placed on remote learning, and we will have to revisit that with each family if they change their mind later on during the market period. But parents, we are stressing that please, if you have not done so, please go in and fill out the survey. We're cleaning it up right now. We've had parents go in and complete multiple surveys. We are utilizing the last completed survey as the most accurate one. We're not utilizing the first, or in some cases, the second or third. We're utilizing the last one. Some of the health and safety measures that we've taken, I provided on the table in the back of the room there, some examples. We purchased 2,000 adult face shields. There's a sample there. We purchased 2,000 child face shields for our youngest learners that may have difficult time with the masks. We have purchased 2 million face masks to be distributed for students and staff that do not have their own masks. We will distribute multiple during the course of the day if required. If they become a little sweaty and a child or a staff member needs a second or a third one, they are available. We purchased 70,000 packets of wipes, and they're on the table as well, so that we could wipe down desks, chairs, and other items throughout the school day, several times during the day. It was mentioned today about students getting mask breaks. Those can be done frequently throughout the day, whether it's inside or outdoors. As the weather stays warm and stays conducive to going outdoors, we're encouraging a schedule be set by building administration so that classes can go outdoors, take the masks off, do some stretching, and also get some physical activity. You'll see the sanitizing stations. We purchased over 800 of those that will be placed strategically on stands throughout the building and also mounted to walls outside every lavatory, student and staff. We've also purchased, I brought a sample of individual bottles of sanitizer for all classrooms and offices, and also plexiglass dividers. There's a sample there as well. Some will be placed like that, and they'll be freestanding. Some will be secured to tables where students will be sitting across from each other. I think that basically covers everything. I'm going to take a breath, let everybody process that, and any questions you may have, I'm prepared to answer. But just to mention, again, the reason why we haven't gone hybrid at the K-8, because we have classes that are going to be less than half of the normal class size, which is 28 students. So we are at 14 and under. In many cases, you're going to see classrooms with under 10 children and 1 adult.
Okay, before we go any further, relate to the topic, things you just described here. The camera, can you train the camera on that table there?
Yes,
We already did.
we did. I can
You did?
do it again if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, okay, no, just, you know, people are watching. You ready to show everything?
I think it's in the small screen in the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Mr. Lombard, are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Lombard seems to be there.
They have a camera.
I'm here, but the video is frozen. Yeah, the video is frozen.
We're gonna go around the room, see if there's questions. Ms. Allen, do you have any questions? No. Benham?
Yeah, I have a question. Mr. Sonny, I know you did your homework. You got an A+. Right?
Thank you.
But you know, maybe right now they're not exactly a great school in the school because I take care about the safety for all students, that parents and everyone, right? Education is always going to be there. Education never going to be out, right? But of the life of our kids, that's the most second we can do. So that's why I care. But when you put it here in your remote learning, you're not reading everything you said as a parent. But I know we are not going to really say parents. Parents have to be there. But do you think parents are going to follow all this? Do you think parents that will have time? Because I know after, like you said, 53 or 56% parents, they decide to go to the school. I believe that parents send this child to school because they need to work, right? And I really have to respect that, right? You know,
Sure.
It's not easy while we're going through in the country. But everything here as a parent, I say, wow, it's a lot of things because
It's overwhelming.
work, your job, you know, everything you have to do at home, it's a lot of things, you know, and I'm worried about that. So, do you think parents will follow all this?
So that's a great question, Mr. Benahan. I find it overwhelming for every parent. I've talked to parents in other districts. I've heard from parents because we do have an two inter-district magnet schools and an aquaculture program. I've also seen on the television where they're broadcasting and interviewing parents of people that are well off that either work for the station or, and it was an overwhelming task, even for the parent who is at home, who's college educated, and who has enormous resources to do this. That is why I'm trying to let people understand that a couple of short months ago, when we were doing this and we had no choice, the amount of people that spoke out, how difficult it was on the parents, on the families, and on the students was overwhelming. As you know, I did the Facebook Lives, and many parents were just blown away by the responsibility of doing this. So I need to let people know that I understand their choice, I understand the reasons, and I respect it. But if this is going to work, this is what needs to happen for it to be highly effective. Because we can't say, I'm choosing remote, and then we're in the middle of September and October, and I'm scrolling through a Facebook Live, and I'm getting all the same complaints that we got back in the fall, back in the spring. Because the school's going to do more. But without the participation of the student and the support of the parent, it's not going to be successful. Because there is no way an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old is going to be engaged in a virtual classroom all day long, because that's basically what we're asking if you're going to do school, without the support of mom and dad. Many of the high school students told me it was a lot easier to skip a class by closing the laptop than it was having to go somewhere in the building. So closing the laptop and going to sleep was very simple. A lot of the students did not participate with video because they just woke up, they didn't even get out of bed, they were in their pajamas. That is not an acceptable way to do this. If you're at home, don't have access to the nutritional meals and all the other things that come about. Again, I had some students reach out. What can I do? Is there any support I can get? I don't want to go home. So these are all the things that concern me. I know that people's lives and health and safety is first and foremost, but I've seen the basketball courts around the city in the last few weeks packed. I've seen the splash pads packed. I've seen other camps and things going on and daycare facilities all open and have done it successfully. So we have highly trained individuals that are teachers. For anyone to say, and I've seen some screenshots, I don't have social media, that we need to reimagine and rethink how we provide education in the 21st century. I will say there is no substitute for a highly trained, highly qualified teacher in a classroom or a highly trained support staff. If someone can tell me that it's as good or almost as good virtually, show me where that's working, because I don't think there's any country in this world that's doing it. I think there's other countries that would do it if they could do it and they can do it effectively. Robots have taken the place of humans on assembly lines and things of that nature, but no one can, I think, can replace. And we've tried with digital learning platforms for credit recovery and other things, and the same people that killed those programs are the ones now out there trying to say we should keep our schools closed. I don't buy it, and our kids need the support in person. That's my 5 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Tani. It's very important that as a parent of 3 boys who graduate from high school, one still in high school, I would care and not worry about all children. I agree for school. And we want the best for them, and we don't want people come and say, name VOA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martinez?
Yeah, I have a few questions. I appreciate all the information. It's well thought out, and it definitely is organized. I do have concerns with parents being able to support in the manner they're supposed to support, or the level of expectation that the district as a fund parent is going to be difficult for many parents, as is the staff. But I mean, if we're gonna make this healthcare for our children, then we're gonna have to do our part. I mean, we're gonna I have a couple questions. One is, I forget her name, I apologize.
Lisa?
About data. Are we taking data on here? Our staff comes from everywhere. So are we collecting the data as to COVID outbreak where our staff members are coming from?
Well, we're asking that all parents self-monitor their children. So that's a big one. And we're asking staff that if they feel sick, one, they stay home. And number two, they contact their healthcare provider and everything else. But we're monitoring everything. I mean, Fairfield County was the hardest hit when it came to COVID-19 in the state of Connecticut. It is now documented that we are well under control, beyond control. So we're going to be monitoring closely the Bridgeport Public Schools. I think then the staff needs to monitor themselves. We talked about this as well. If there's an outbreak of COVID-19 in Humboldt High School, those students come here to aquaculture, and we need to make a decision not only based on aqua, but then maybe just based on the kids in that cohort. Same thing goes on, going on with Fairchild Wheeler and kids in other communities. So I'm more concerned about the kids because there's more of them coming from the community than staff. I think staff will know how to monitor themselves and inform us if they've been in contact with somebody that's COVID-19 positive.
Yeah, not always do the symptoms show up right away in order for you to recognize that there's a problem. But anyways, so I asked this before our last meeting when you went through it. I really cared about how the staff felt, and I know that they have a job to do, and we're going to open up. But are we prepared to substitute if we have a mass call out on a constant basis?
Well, we're working now. We increased, I spoke to our finance director to increase the pool and work with Kelly Services. We've increased the rate of pay for subs per day to try to attract from the other districts around us more substitutes and quality substitutes. We're going to implant many building-based subs to make sure that we can cover beyond the average call-out rate. And so we're working on that. Kelly Services is working on it.
Okay. And just my final thought is, again, I appreciate that this seems really organized and well thought out. And just as I had conversations with a lot of the staff members outside prior to walking in and during our break, and I told them, I said, understand that we're all dealing with this for the first time. And so there's only but much we can do. It's trial by error. It's, looking at data, working together as a team. Their voice matters to me, but also our children. So, I gave them a couple things to think about, as well as they gave me a few things to think about. So I know that it was a collective work effort coming together with our procedures and protocols, what we're going to do. And so I believe that the teacher's voice was heard. So, I just hope they feel supported, and they know that, things have to just continue to move on. I'm a Bridgeport parent, and as I said before, I really want every single child back in the classroom. However, my son is 17 in Bassick High School. I said, it's your fault. What do you prefer to do? It is your fault. And he decided to stay home. That's on him. But now he's 17. He has to be responsible to ensure that he's going to do what he has to do. Now, as far as my nephew who's going into 5th grade, a lot of responsibility is going to fall on me to do this parent aspect of it. And I'm a bit nervous.
Well, I think those are it's an overwhelming list.
Yeah.
I think many of those things can be easily accomplished. Making sure enough sleep, the daily routine. So it looks like an overwhelming list, but really the key components, I think that are the hardest components is making sure that they're engaged in the live classes, they're doing their work, and they're getting the support that they need, and that you're in communication with the teacher. I think those are the most difficult ones, especially for working parents. If you're a working parent and chose remote learning and left, your second grader at home with grandma, and grandma's not able to support it because they're not technologically savvy, that could be problematic.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess finally, we're monitoring everything day by day. So if anything statewide changes and.
Well, if anything changes in the Bridgeport community first,
Yeah,
that is, if it happens in Hartford, we're not that concerned if there's nothing happening here. So I think it's important we look at communities. I think some of the issues, and I think Mr. Sokolovic mentioned it earlier, is the information that's out there that some of the folks are reacting to is not accurate information. So, again, today we have a great question and answer session with the BEA. I don't think people understood. We didn't go to a hybrid in the elementary middle grades because it doesn't call for it. But we are prepared to do it if we need be. So I think if we continue to get out positive, clear messaging, accurate messaging, people will feel more comfortable. We're going to have to open schools at some point. Everyone says, well, if there's a vaccine, we can open. I've already heard from parents and staff saying even if there was a vaccine, they wouldn't take it. So what are we going to wait for 3 years, 4 years? I mean, what is the proper time to open? If we're going to wait till everybody is willing to take a vaccine, we're going to lose a generation.
and as I stated previously, my main concern is their academics and to ensure that they're growing academically. So it is difficult to know if it's but that's all.
Oh,
I guess, I'd like to start by making a statement and looking at since you're choosing to keep the child, allowing him to do, I'm choosing to send my child. Either one of them are right. There is no wrong answer. Parent choice. Over 14,000 parents have made a choice. Think about close to 8,000 choosing to send them to school for whatever reason possible. For myself, I do think there is no substitute for person learning. I believe it's I believe the plan is safe enough for them to do so. But if some people don't think it's safe for their son and they're not willing to take that risk, that's okay. Everybody got their choice. They should not be attacking one another like I see on the internet. And the person is looking and say, if I want to keep my son in school, I shouldn't be attacked. I don't care about our children, I don't care about the scared. That's just simply not true. We just have different picture and how people risk reward ratio. But that being said, I'm looking forward to having a couple of lectures. I think it can be more safely. And I've got a couple of questions came up that really seems like we didn't really get to too much.
okay.
Ventilation in the schools. How are we going to mitigate school ventilation?
So those are good questions. I mean, one of the things that we have to take a look at, and we talked today with teachers, is weather. Obviously, when the weather is like earlier this week was, there's no air movement, it's hot, humid. Certain buildings, we may need to make a decision, either A, go to a half a day, or in some extreme cases, we may need to close and make those days up at a later time. We do have some flexibility now by starting a week later. And so those are some decisions that need to be made. I reached out, had a great conversation. He called me the other day and gave me someone to reach out to at the State Department. Our commissioner is very supportive of what's going on here in Bridgeport. We're waiting on some answers on some of the things that were brought up today by the BEA. So those are some things that need to be addressed. I've talked to our facilities folks in the past. Some folks, they've done some testing on in-building air quality, and in many cases, the air quality outside was worse than the air quality inside. So I think we need to take a look at everything, but we are in the process of doing that. We're hoping, praying that fall weather comes a little sooner than later, but if we need to make adjustments at individual buildings, we will.
And as far as class time, I was outside and this actually shouted at me, I'm going to have 28 kids in my class. There's no schools having every single child.
There's no school, no classroom, and we've talked about this. There may be within a school an individual class that may have to go to a hybrid based on numbers. There may be some adjustments made where if, and given the fact that we can do some assessments of children, and there was time that was significant time that was missed last year, we can make adjustments in grade levels as well for intervention. We have other spaces in the building that we can utilize to access and provide instruction for a little bit larger of a group of students. But there is no way we're going to get class sizes anywhere near more than 50% contraction.
We're basically been talking about the second school, class size. I want you to come to the high schools. With the A through L, you already cut it in half. And then with the parent choice, the child home, like a cut in half again. So possible to see class size is less than 10.
In many cases, less than 10, and there are also specific classes at the high school that already are in the high teens. So when you start factoring those in, you're going to have classes of 5 or 6 kids, maybe even less. So a lot of individualized and personalized instruction.
Thank you.
Well, Brown?
I don't really have any questions, but I will say that I agree with you as well. Looking at this, this is all new for everyone. Understanding this process, no one knows how to deal with a virus that has no cure to it at the moment. But I will say, even as board members, even looking into the plan that we have set out, and also hearing from the community, I think it is a team effort if we all work together to really implement this the best way we know how. I know, just from a board perspective, my phone has been blowing up. My emails, I don't know who gave my phone number out, but it has been blowing up recently, and I'm just like, I don't have any children in the district, but I do, and I am responsible for my nephew and my godchildren. So I'm that point of contact person. God forbid something happens to them. But also understanding the climate in which we have a lot of younger parents who are battling multiple jobs, and then trying to teach, and the stress that they are dealing with. And I can speak from a young person's perspective because they're all calling me and they're like, what are we supposed to do? And I think understanding parents' choice and understanding that you have a choice with this, and I think too, we're playing with time because we don't know what it's gonna look like, but there should be a resource provided anyway, whether that's in home or whether that's in the building, because tomorrow may be a different day. But also understanding that we have to have something in place, because I know a lot of children that are dealing with home situations that are not safe. They're not. And I get that. And school is a safe haven for them. But also, too, I understand from the teacher's perspective. So I'm with you, Ms. Martinez, letting the teachers know that we do care what you say. We do care what it is that, bothers you as far as this process, but also too, the children are the first answer, and we have to make sure that we're responding to them the best we know how. And like Albert mentioned, it has to be everyone on board. We can't expect an 8-year-old to know all the things that they need to know in order with this distance learning and even in class. So there's a lot of things going on. So I think visiting this and also taking the opportunity to say we as the board members can support what it is that we need to do. If this does not work, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll try again. God forbid that, this is the situation, but also to understanding that none of us have done this before. We are not qualified experts in CDC information. None of us are, actually teachers, besides Ms. Allen, who served in schools. But other than that, we're here to support our students. And I think I want to be on the right side of that, which is our students, but also to knowing that we are in a process that we don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. But if we can work together, we can figure out something. So I don't really have a question, but I just want to share that because I know I don't want the staff to think that we don't care, or we don't want the community to feel that we don't care, because we're all in this together, literally together.
And to that point, I think Ms. Batista can tell you we've committed to each other to work collaboratively to make sure that everyone feels good when they leave the table about what we put in place for staff and students. And we have a great working relationship. We've had several meetings over the last week. We're going to meet again tomorrow. But I think overall today's experience was a great I think, option that we worked on together to address questions from teachers. We're going to do another session next week for those that may have missed it or things that pop up in the meantime and get another update. But I think, working together, district and teachers union very closely, I'm going to say for the first time, the relationship is strong in a long time. I think is going to go a long way in get through this pandemic.
Just to let you know, today, the superintendent Stani had a live session with the teachers. But on top of that, my understanding is that there were over 480 teachers that were on Team Live. So teachers definitely, what they need is they need to know that they're supported, that they're going to be safe, that the students will be safe, and the community, which is very close. And I do think the session today was helpful in getting answers to many of the questions they have. So it's great to hear say that you want to support teachers to everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Lombard, you have anything to say or ask?
He's not frozen, but the video is frozen. He can hear you, but the video is frozen.
Oh.
Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So there's so many possible questions. I was jotting things down, but you probably have taken care of them, especially with the teachers. So I'm just going to ask a question about any efforts being made for additional efforts above just the regular academics for those students that are learning from home. Students for the social in fact sometimes it's bad. Anything to outreach to we could implement if you already have in your plan, if not, to kind of address the things that they're missing by not being there that could be more subjective or the problems of not being present, whether or not they chose it, they're not there,
Thanks.
Yeah, he wanted to know what type of supports that we might have more subjective for people who choose to stay home.
Oh, so all the staff, student support services that are available to in-person, we will continue to make available virtually to the students at home. That's why we're looking extremely closely at making sure that attendance is taken on a regular basis. Teachers are informing administration and support staff of students who they are concerned are not fully engaged or partially engaged immediately, so that we can do outreach, whatever level of outreach that it requires. I think those were some of the things that we lacked in the spring when students weren't engaged because we weren't doing a formalized live streaming of classes or scheduled time to meet with the social worker or the counselor. Those things kind of fell through the cracks at times, and if students were disengaged toward the end, I'm not sure that student support staff and administration were notified quick enough because we didn't have those protocols formalized, but we do have them now.
Anything else, Mr. Lombard?
Okay, and I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay. So you mentioned with the counselors. So I'm thinking in areas other than academics, some of the things that kind of are concerns for students who aren't getting that social, emotional, or maybe even problems at home, or even nutrition, some of those areas that wouldn't have happening just by them being in school.
Well, we're still going to have grab and go meal service for students at home if parents can come, or a family member to pick up grab and go food. or if obviously the older kids can come out on their own and grab the meals for the day. We will hold, any after-school type activities and clubs virtually for students at home to participate in. So those are all going to be options that are available for kids at home as well as kids in person.
Okay, Ms. Allen has a question?
It's not really. It's not really a question, it's an observation. My observation has been in the school years that I have been there, that there are many parents that cannot help their children who are not computer savvy, they're not with the new whatever you call all of these things, and they can't help their children. What happens to these children that they don't have that?
Well, that's the unfortunate situation that arises when I choose the option of remote learning, but I don't have the ability to support it adequately. Those are the students that are going to be the ones that struggle the most. So that's why we're trying to make sure that we create a safe environment, that those parents sooner than later recognize that it's okay to send their child to school, even if it's for, a third grader for 2 days out of the week and not the entire 5. Anything that we can start to build some confidence in parents that they will be willing to send their children to us.
But I'm also talking about those parents. How can we educate them? Because they're doing a lot of the teaching and testing and things at home. How can we educate these parents to be able to assess their children and guide them and do all the things they need to do with this remote learning?
Well, we do have, for the technology piece, trainings that we did, and they are online and available on the website to view, that our IT department put together for parents. We have assigned someone in the district that is going to work with parent partnerships to try to provide some outreach to parents. But unfortunately, there are going to be a group of parents that do not have the ability, as you say. I think Bobby mentioned it, they're working 2 and 3 jobs. And if they don't have the assistance of other family members, older siblings, to fill that void, we're hoping that they realize that it's safe after a certain period of time to send their child in so that we can care and educate and support those students.
Is there anything else, Ms. Allen?
My whole thing is that we don't have anything, or do we have anything in place that can help these parents who are not computer savvy, that, perhaps have never done anything on computers or distance learning or anything? You say that we have support. How do they get this help?
Well, we have trainings that we have held. We've taped those trainings. We're going to do more of those trainings. We put them on the website. They can view those trainings multiple times. They can sit down with somebody to help navigate through the training with them, whether it's a family member or a friend. So, this is really going to be a community effort on the remote learning component, because it's a tough way for children to go to school. And anyone who says we need to rethink, reimagine, reconstruct, I'd like them to sit down and say, okay, show us the way, since you have the magic wand, because I see parents in affluent communities. They're on the news, they're chronicled every day. They're right here in our neighboring communities that are struggling with this. These are college-educated professionals who are at home with their children and cannot do this. So to expect blue-collar families who have to go and work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet to be able to do this, I just think it is ludicrous when we have highly qualified, trained professionals that are willing to do it, as long as we provide a safe environment.
Thank you. I just hope we can reach these parents that do suffer from this sort of.
Thank you.
Mr. Castani?
Mr. Lombard, were you finished? Were you finished, Mr. Lombard?
Mr. Lombard, are you
Yes,
finished?
I think you're right. Yeah. Yes.
Could I speak to that?
Mr. Illingworth?
Sure. Before, Mr. Posilovsky just wants to add one thing to the training.
Vasilevsky?
Yes, I'm just going to lower my mask for a second because I'm roasting. I apologize. What's that? Oh, yes. Just to answer your question, I just wanted to say that we have several supports that are going to be in place specifically to help those parents that you had just mentioned. We're going to have an academic support number that we're going to be able to use, as well as the supports that Mr. Testani said. Plus, we have the academic support team who are teacher specialists that through the last semester and all the way until the very end, we're helping teachers constantly. We held multiple parent sessions that we advertised multiple times that was held in English and in Spanish. We had sessions that were specifically geared towards those parents that had language barriers so that way we could address those directly. And we also have video training that's available for those that work during the day or night so that they can watch it at any time. So between the helpline, the direct hotline support that you have, and basically if they can call or contact us in any way, we're able to help them with the team and the constructs that we have in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are they gonna be in the website?
Oh, yes, they are on the website. And we actually have, if you did get a chance to look at the distance learning portal for Spanish, we're also working on Portuguese, English. We held entire training sessions with hundreds of parents that were in there. We have those statistics if you're ever interested. Yeah. What's that? Oh, okay.
They're also temporarily for this school year able to get some of the CARES money, and we're utilizing that for kindergarten paras to help come in and support our kindergarten teachers. As we know, those kindergarten teachers are going to struggle with little ones with masks and breaks and everything else. So that is going to be implemented on a one-year basis as well.
Mr. Illingworth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a few items, and the first I would like to, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, is ask a couple questions to our health director, if she's still there with us. I hope. She's still.
Oh, you're
I'm
looking.
here.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for hanging in there with us, and thank you for all your service you have done throughout this whole thing, and I really appreciate you and everything you're doing. The question I have is, and because you're the expert when it comes to this, is, we in education, we use data. And so I want to ask you as far as data, and I know you kind of already mentioned it a little bit, but I was wondering if you can give us and the community a little specifics on, like, right now, currently, and probably in the trend of the last month or 2 months, what are our percentage numbers compared to testing versus positive numbers on those? Can you provide that with us? Is it 1%? Is it less than 1%? Is it more than 1%?
So it's less than 1%, and we've been fairly consistent. I actually talked to DPH about this earlier, just today, and we were talking about how we would continue to monitor this going forward and looking at Bridgeport as compared to our surrounding communities. So the guidelines when we talk about reopening schools and taking a look at that, I don't know if everybody has had a chance to see that, but it really depends on having, when we talk about the data supporting in-person learning, one of the key indicators is that we have fewer than 10 new COVID-19 cases per 100,000 of the population per day. So that number, and I don't want to get into all the stats and, and start geeking out on everyone, but when you start standardizing our population against the state, we are well below the threshold. And if you looked at the raw data for that, typically, in a given week, we would add 40 cases. So we are very, very, very low on that threshold. We stay underneath 1%. When you stratify that and take a look at by age group and population, again, the same thing. We are still very low, and it does favor in-person learning. So the data does support that. And as I said before, it's something that we're going to continually monitor. It's not just something that we are doing, leading up to back to school. It's something that as schools open and then they stay open, we're going to use the data to support those decisions.
Thank you. And that's sort of like where my heart and my head is at when it comes to this decision, because it's hard. It's hard for us, and as a parent and as a board member, I'm very torn. But the one thing is we have the data. The data supports that it is safe to do so with the strict guidelines and the protocols that we must put in place, and with the support systems that we must, as administration, that we must provide to our teachers, our students, and our parents. And I'm glad to hear that we are putting a more of an effort on really supporting our parents, because they're going to need a lot of support when it comes to this distant learning and hybrid model, whatever the case may be. And I'm really happy to hear that the health department, they're going to be monitored, and they can monitor certain neighborhoods to see. So I feel confident that we are we're going to be proactive. We're not going to wait and react when something happens. I really feel that we need to be proactive in every single way by looking at that data every single day and see what adjustments need to be made. I think that's what's important. So when I hear multiple times it's not safe, well, provide us with the specifics of why it's not safe. Because everything, all the data and all the guidelines that are working, that's why the data and the numbers are low as it is, because guidelines, masks, everything else is working. So I don't see why it shouldn't be about parents' choice, about if they feel that they want to send their child to school. And for our community to divide us, once again, our community does a great job in dividing one another and attacking people and parents about sending their child to school or not to school. I mean, I was sent an email yesterday from a staff member basically saying I had no regard for students' lives and or her life. That hurt. That hurt. Because I don't do this for countless volunteer hours to put people's life at risk, or for me wanting to harm anyone. All I care about, and I'm an advocate since my daughter was in kindergarten, is for our children to get the best education possible. They already lost 30% of their school year, and I don't care what anyone says, they are never, ever getting that back. And if we now lose another, 30%, 50%, on top of that 30%, they're never gonna make that back. If we have the chance of reopening and providing the students with the education they need, because the data supports it, we must do that. It is the responsible thing to do. We're not here, we don't advocate to close schools. We advocate to keep children in school and giving them the support systems with our teachers to provide them with the best education. So that's why I will support this, and I'm happy, and I will support the things that I think we need to do as administration, and support the superintendent in making sure we provide those support systems and that we follow those protocols and remain proactive. That's how I feel, and I'm sorry if I'm going on a rant, But people have made this very personal. Very personal, and that's what's unfortunate. And that's what's unfortunate about my community, that we decide to pinpoint each other and divide each other when we need to support each other. And the only way this is going to work, it's gotta be through a village. We gotta do it together. We can't depend on one person. In our classrooms, it's gonna take all our students, our teachers, to help clean our area and everything else. If we do it on a group effort, we will be fine. We will be very successful. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Superintendent, for your leadership and making this happen. I know it's been hard on you, and making this happen with all the chaos and the ruckus that's out there that really doesn't support of people feeling unsafe when all the numbers and the data show that it is safe to do so.
Okay, Mr. Benningham, something to say?
Yes, I have this question for Mr. Sani. I'm gonna read it for you, and you can give me a good answer, you know. What's going on if happen if the child refuses the mask? Mask is mandatory. All staff's going to check the temperature, you know, and the students when they go to school. All kids will be in the room for almost 7 hours. So they're gonna do breakfast, lunch, music, gym, whatever they're gonna do. Are they still going to have to open the door policy for our parents? Welcome. How the PAC and PTSO supposed to hold a meeting? And the last one is what qualification the sub had to have in order to be sub?
Okay, so number one, face coverings are required per the state of Connecticut. The minute if a student has to get on a school bus, or the minute they get onto campus if they don't ride a bus. If the student does not wear the mask, they will be told by the administration. If they're defying the teacher, phone call home. At a certain point, whether it's 2 or 3 times, if the child is continually defiant with wearing the mask, they will be placed on remote learning as a measure to maintain health and safety. So we're not going to fight with kids day in and day out, not wearing masks or being defiant and risking the health and safety of others. Number 2 was, I believe you asked about one of the mandatory, mask or mandatory, yes. In terms of parents, it's not going to be parents walking their child into the building, down to the classrooms. They're going to have to bring their child to the door. Child will then have to enter the building. Parents that need to come up to the school for any reason, if it's not an emergency related reason, will have to make an appointment. They will have the choice in terms of PPT meetings or other parent conference type meetings to do it remotely if they feel more comfortable, if they do not want to come to the school, but it will be the parent's choice. If they want to participate in person in a PPT, they will be able to do that. In terms of the PTSO PAC, I think that's something that we need to discuss further. That has not been one of the things that we've really ironed out. We've been focused so much on reopening schools that we haven't really gotten to that level. But I think that's something that we can start talking about maybe in your next student and families meeting on how we can do that and best do it in a safe way. One of the things I can tell you, and I will get clarity on PTSO PAC meetings, there was a question raised because Monday the administrators report back to work. We are having an in-person gathering at Central High School in the auditorium, just like we did today. Question was raised by a couple about indoor events and gatherings of 25 or more people. I was told through the Commissioner of Education's office that does not apply to these types of meetings. I forget the exact wording he gave me, and that was provided to the administrator. So let's start talking about that in your next committee meeting. I don't know if I missed that.
They're going to be checking the temperature.
There's not going to be temperature checks at the door. We are providing, as you know, to parents in need, our most neediest parents, the remainder of the 4,000 thermometers that were given to us graciously by the health department and Lisa Morrissey. So we're encouraging parents to do that at home. I was asked today, and I have no problem with it. It was mentioned by one of the teachers if it was okay for them to do a temperature check of the children through the infrared thermometers in their classroom, and I have no problem doing that as long as they are aware that it's 104 above, not anything less than that. That is not something that they can just say, all right, you have a temperature of 99.9, get out and go to the nurse. I mean, that's not going to happen. So. You can reach out to Kelly Services. I believe you have to have an associate's degree to be registered with Kelly Services as a substitute teacher. If you go onto our website, there is a number for under HR for Kelly Services, and if we can onboard any folks that meet the requirements to be a sub in Bridgeport, we welcome them.
And all kids going to be doing everything breakfast, lunch, and the room.
Well, that's one of the things that in the elementary schools, we're trying to keep them cohorted. We will do breakfast. Some of the schools we've talked about, there are some safe ways in certain buildings based on the numbers to possibly have lunch in the cafeteria in a social distanced way. That's why it's important to have those breaks scheduled where teachers can bring students outside, not only to take the masks off, but to get out of the classroom. We don't want kids cooped up in the room for 6.5 hours a day. That's not going to be productive once we start getting into the second, third, fourth week of school. So it's important we get them moving around. The gym teacher can take them outside. If the music teacher wants to take them outside, you can do some singing, you can do some other things. Science teacher can take them outside. So we're encouraging students to get out as much as possible, as long as the weather permits us. I think it'll be a great experience. Again, if we want to reimagine teaching, that's the way to reimagine teaching. Utilizing things in a different way, not always sitting in the classroom.
Okay. Anyone else have anything?
I want to thank Lisa for joining us. She's been, like I said, a great partner, a great asset, and I love working with her. And she'll be here as much, she said, to help support what we're doing here in the school system. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
I had a couple of things to say. With respect to distance learning, I have been working remotely for the last 5 months, and it's really easy to fall out of a structure if you're not careful. What's really important, whether you're working from home or going to school from home, is that you establish a structure for yourself. Get up, get cleaned up, get dressed just as you would to go to school. I get dressed as if I was going to work in an office. It changes your mindset, and it's important that you follow that. To the extent you can maybe set up a designated area to do your work so that it's kind of like it's a separate place, so that when you're done at the end of the school day, you leave that behind, and then you go to your home life. It makes it very difficult if you're just doing it on your sofa or in your bedroom, things like that. To the extent you can make a designated area, that this is where I do my work or my school, and then when you're done with that at the end of the day, disconnect from that, and then go back to your home life. Those things are just really, really important, because otherwise one day can bleed into the next and the next and the next, and it all just bleeds together and makes it really, really difficult. So that's something that I would suggest to anybody who is going to be doing distance learning. The other thing I wanted to remark on was choices. Everybody has choices in life, and they're not always easy ones. And to the extent we've been able to, we've tried to give everybody the choice to do what they feel is best for them. I know the people outside are upset and feel that something is being forced on people, but that's simply not the case. This has been structured in a way to give everybody a choice, even if it's not the ideal one. It's a choice. It's better than nothing. And with respect to employees, there's, again, the folks outside remarking how they're going to be forced to go to work and be in a building. I've heard allegations that they're being put on a death sentence, things of that nature. But you have choices. People who have underlying health conditions, they can go out on medical leave.
if you are just really not comfortable going back to the school building, you can go out on family medical leave. How you get paid, that's another story. That comes down to your sick time, your vacation time, and those things. But your job will be safe. So again, we have choices. If this is something that really bothered you, just did not want to do it, there are choices. There are choices for everyone. And even, quite possibly where you become a distance learning teacher solely. There's that possibility too. Nothing is promised, but again, there are choices, and the district is doing everything it can to try to work with everyone in that regard. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is, over the last few days, there's been talk about simply not opening physical schools. Some reference to something New Haven Schools is doing. I don't know what New Haven is doing, why they're doing what they're doing, but I wanted to clarify. Under the law, we are required to provide physical in-person learning. We're required to do that under 10-151 of the Connecticut General Statutes. We can supplement that with distance learning if there are people who want to opt out of that. But we are not allowed to take away the choice of in-person learning. That would be against the law. And so, while that's been kind of put out there the last few days, it's really not an option for us to pursue. There is the possibility, if there were some really, really dire circumstance, that the superintendent could submit an application for a waiver to that with the State Department of Education. But the likelihood of that being granted is very small, unless, again, there were just really, really, really dire circumstances. And so if we had a sudden spike in COVID-19 cases in Bridgeport, that may be a reason to pursue that, but we also have to consider that if that were the case, it would probably be everywhere else too. And in that scenario, the governor would likely issue another executive order like he did in March, and we'd be back where we were then. So, again, we're doing the best we can to work within the confines of the law. We don't want to do anything that might jeopardize our status, our ability to receive funding, or anything like that. And to the extent that we can work within the confines of the law and still give people choices, that's what we're trying to do. And so along those lines, there was talk about convening a meeting to discuss not reopening, but now having heard that, is there anybody here who is really inclined to do that? Or are you more inclined to just go the way we're going, work our plan our work, and do the best we can? I've said, not you, in general, are we inclined to just move ahead the way Mr. Testani has been outlining?
I just want to add one more thing. We have 169 school districts in the state of Connecticut. Some are extremely small, some are large. As we know, the only one that is trying to make some sort of attempt like this is the New Haven Public Schools. Greenwich, Darien, New Canaan, Ridgefield, Fairfield, Westport, Cromwell, Simsbury, Farmington, all of the wealthy districts that have 75 to almost 100% of students coming in person are somehow creating some sort of schedule to meet the needs of their children. Our children cannot fall any further behind. I've heard this for 25 years at different levels, a number of different board meetings with different participants saying our children are falling behind, our children are falling behind. They will fall extremely farther behind, just like Mr. Illingworth said, if we do not at least give the ones that want to come in person that opportunity. That just does not sit well with me as an educator. I know it doesn't sit well with our staff. So that's where I'm going to leave that. But if Greenwich High School with 3,000 students can figure out a way to operate with a schedule that gets in-person learning for students, I think we can do it here in all of our schools as well.
Okay, so I guess it's agreed, we're just gonna move forward as we are, with the understanding that the reopening plan is fluid enough where if things change, Mr. Testani can adjust it accordingly. Okay. Pete? Alvin?
I just want to be sure for the record that if you guys decide, you open the school, it's fine. But I want to be sure on the record that I'm not agreeing to open the school. Like I said in the beginning, I'm going to keep saying, education goal is going to be there. Never go away. I'm 45 years old and I'm back to, college back. And I'm taking my time because I know education is going to be there. But the life of the kids, less than 1 second, they go away. All right, this is very serious, very scary. I know another town, they have a situation. This is Bridgeport. Everybody say, oh, this is Bridgeport, this is Bridgeport. Yeah, this is Bridgeport. We have to take care because I don't want they blame the BOE. You guys have to want to, decide to open the schools, fine. Of course, we want education for the kids. They're always going to be professional. I know they will be, but life of a kid is less than 1 second they can go away. That's my opinion. Thank you.
All right, so we're moving ahead. Okay, next on the agenda is discussion regarding Bridgeport Public Schools Fall 2020 sports program. Mr. Testa.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion statewide on the fall sports, particularly football, first and foremost, also some of the other sports like volleyball. The football committee of the CIAC, in a 10-1 vote the other day, wanted to postpone the season from the fall and possibly look at moving it to the spring. Now, the football committee is similar to the subcommittees of the Board of Ed. It went to the full board of the CIAC, and they reversed the subcommittee's decision and figured and said that they're going to go full steam with football in the fall as they originally planned. Today, the Department of Health of the state of Connecticut advised against it as well. I can tell you the overwhelming number of school districts in the state and superintendents are questioning the decision of the CIAC. I don't mind because I know my colleagues are all looking to see who's going to be the first one to make the decision, and I will be the first one to make the decision to say that we cannot play football this fall. That doesn't mean a later date, as some are suggesting, in prior to the spring sports, and maybe push the spring sports, that this can't happen. But if the Big Ten Conference cannot play football, if Ohio State cannot play football, I don't think Central Harding and Bassick should risk having students play football this fall. It breaks my heart to say that, but I know as a former coach in this district, there is no way to safely transport kids on a school bus to football games. There's no way to sanitize the locker room situation as it needs to be sanitized each and every day, multiple times, possibly. We just don't have the capability. Anyone's been into a football locker room will know it is an overwhelming task just to get it clean on a weekly basis, but to sanitize it every day. And then the game itself does not call for social distancing, unfortunately. It is kids on top of kids on top of kids. The other issue I have with this as well is if we have half the kids not coming to school in person, what are we going to do then? Allow those kids that are choosing remote to come in and play football, but then not be able to go to English class because they choose not to go to English class. So my recommendation is that we set the trend. I think it'll go a long way in everyone following suit in not having fall football this fall. The other sport that is a major concern, we don't have to worry about swimming. We don't have the pools. We don't have the swim. We will not be using our pools at Blackham and the JFK campus to start the school year, but is the volleyball. Again, volleyball season is not one that's conducive to social distancing. Our gymnasiums aren't going to be used for gym classes. I think it would be contradicting ourselves by having students in the, especially coming from other towns as well, mixing up in the gym for volleyball. So I think we should pull the plug and postpone those seasons, and I think all the other surrounding towns will do the same. I think everyone's waiting for the first person to make the move. This will then provide us with an opportunity to have those things reinstated later on in the spring, as the CIAC and the Department of Health of the state of Connecticut has recommended.
Does anyone have any questions about this? There's no action to be taken on our part. This is just what you're doing.
I just would like to bring that to the board and get a sense of where the board feels and where they're at with this.
Okay.
I would like to express my support.
Yeah, just going to go around the room. Ms. Allen, do you have anything to say about this?
For what's best for the student, I would not want to put a person's child in jeopardy playing sports and having, because they are contact sports.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan?
Well, everybody know I don't agree to open the school either sports because we don't want nobody get sick and stuff like that, so I don't support that.
Ditto?
Question.
Yes.
Does that mess up those that are preparing for college that may be going into a college sport? How do we, because a lot of our students, look forward to the college sports. How does that transition work? Are we going to be doing reels or, making sure that some type of visual perspective of their work that they have, just so they don't lose out altogether if COVID does die down?
What I'd like to do, because right now the guidelines for conditioning are very strict in terms of small cohorts and things like that. I'd like to work with the BEA as part of our negotiation for reopening to be able to pay some coaches to continue to work in the small cohorts involving kids in working out and conditioning, so that there is that opportunity when the time comes that they will be prepared to play.
Lombard?
Yes. First, what other sports, if any, aside from football and volleyball, would not take place?
Well, there's been talk of the swim season in the fall. That's all we would be dealing with right now. We also have soccer. Soccer seems to be being played right now throughout the summer in different types of leagues and travel teams, and it's being safely done. There's obviously less children or students when they have to be transported. So soccer will be played. Cross country will continue. Obviously, that's an easy one. We will have to probably revisit this based on the cases, and I'm sure it's going to be looked at again when basketball season rolls around in the winter.
And then, will there be any alternative opportunities? I'm thinking of a couple of things. One, what Ms. Brown said about preparing them for college, but also I know for some students it really is an incentive. If you don't have a C in class, a C or higher, you can't play on the sport. It plays into being an incentive for school as well, and then also just the opportunity to do something energetic and competitive. If there's any other opportunities, even though it won't be playing other schools and so forth.
Well, one of the things that I thought would be possible, and want to sit down with the 3 high school principals, the athletic directors, and the coaches, is maybe putting together some sort of what they usually do in those summers, like a passing league where it's a 7-on-7. It could be an intramural. It could be within the school. It could be across the district as well. We can bus some kids over, and we can play at Harding. We can play at Central. We can play at Central again, Kennedy Stadium. That's where Bassett's Field would be, and we can do that some sort of competitive passing league like they do. And I'm sure once this happens, these 7-on-7 type things that we do during the summer to keep kids in shape and keep the programs going. Once we cancel, I'm sure Fairfield and the surrounding towns will probably follow suit, and we'll be able to draw them possibly into as an offer if they'd like to compete with us. And those are usually there are no pads or helmets. It's touch, so
it'll be much safer to be able to participate and compete.
Okay, and thank you.
Okay, Mr. Illingworth?
I support the superintendent's decision.
Okay, as do I. Is there anything else anyone has to say? Mr. Benahan, you have something to say?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the health department director. She can hear me?
I'm here.
Hi, I have a question for you. Do you think all Bridgeport schools are ready to open?
In terms of their plans, or are you referring to our baseline community incidence rate?
General,
I think he means both.
both.
So I've heard from the overwhelming majority of schools, charter, public, private, and between myself and our emergency director, we've been going through those plans. Any of the plans that we had questions on, we were able to provide feedback, and that has been resolved. So I feel comfortable with the plans for the schools going back as far as being able to meet the targets set by the Department of Education. In regards to our incidence rates, yes, our incidence rates aren't something that jump out. Matter of fact, again, I know I said it earlier, so I apologize, but when I talked to the state deputy epidemiologist earlier, and we were really, taking a deep dive into the numbers that I was seeing here in Bridgeport and comparing that to Fairfield County, state, and what trends that they've been seeing, and looking backwards for the past 6 weeks, there was nothing that jumped out there that, was a concern with schools reopening shortly. And I understand that the numbers, they are not fixed, right? They're dynamic. They're going to be changing. And that's why we're going to keep monitoring it and taking a look at it. And if we do see that we start trending upwards, particularly in a given community, that's when we'll have to go back and, and have that conversation about, what's the appropriate next step. As far as, does that mean that we have to have more hybrid learning? Does that mean that, we should consider closing? What are some of the community mitigation tools that we'll put into place? So we're watching it, we're paying attention to it right now. The numbers do support it. So, and I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, go.
I would like to suggest, I've mentioned this before, but we need to get the information out there. We need to counter the information, the misinformation being spread by, I would call, special interest groups out there. And I think we need to do a few more of these informational sessions around the city, maybe for different cohorts, just because people don't know. I mean, most of the people spreading this stuff, some people are still asking, do we have masks? I mean, come on.
I've said it how many times.
Yeah, it's like, they haven't read the plan. People need to read the plan. With people who don't read it, we need to force it down their throats to understand it, and just provide this information for people who are not seeing it. I guess maybe another Facebook Live or whatever, just going through the plan. Maybe even page by page, step by step, because we got to be able to point to, this is what we said. We told you over and over. Because one thing I hate to see is when we have stuff posted and information, and people say, you never told us. Yeah. I just want to ensure they don't have that, to let the misinformation continue to spew throughout the community. I seen actually a thing on Facebook before it comes, sent by one of our parent leaders, that if somebody in school comes up coughing, the child's going to be taken to the hospital and they're not going to be told where they are. I mean, this is the kind of misinformation we're seeing in the community. And if there's no other information out there to counter that, people are buying it. People are sharing stuff like that.
Well,
They
I think the Facebook Live sessions need to resume again, Mr. Benahan. What do you think?
There's a saying in the military, there's always 10% that does not get the word. 10% of the population that just doesn't get the information. They're a very vocal 10%, and then they spread their own disinformation. So I think this does need to be countered. Mike and I have talked about resuming the Facebook Lives. I think it's something that needs to be done, into at least the first month of the year. At least that first.
Oh, at least.
And maybe even some special sessions that specifically deal with the reopening and some of the more common misconceptions about the reopening.
That'll
To
be,
address those.
yeah, I think we'll schedule that for early next week. And then that could be again, a weekly thing. There's a lot of folks on vacation, some of the folks, but I think, Mr. Sokolovic brings up a great point. Some of this stuff is so bizarre that we really need to try to rein it in.
I think that's it for everyone? Okay, I just want to take some time to thank the staff for being here, being supportive. I can't recognize you all with your masks on. I think you're Mr. Planis.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Dr. Jenkins.
And Dr. Jenkins. I want to thank Ms. Morrissey. Thank you for taking the time to stay up with us well beyond your initial presentation, just to be able to answer our questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Time is noted as being 8:24 PM. We are adjourned.
You carry that.
Double.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Well, we got to the bottom of it, Rita.
You guys got the thumb drive.
We figured it out. Yes, sir. We figured it out.
You did?
Yes, the network is looping into itself right now.
Oh.
And that is why. We literally ran the whole thing off hotspots. So, good times.
Yeah. I'll let you.
You got it?